There's one conversation that can change your entire career. And most people get it completely wrong. It's the conversation with your boss about your next move, about promotion, about what's next for you. And here's the problem. Most people either avoid it altogether or they walk into it unprepared and come out worse than when they went in. They get a vague answer. They get, let's revisit this later. They get told they're on the right track and nothing changes. Sometimes it backfires completely. The relationship gets awkward. They get labelled as pushy or impatient, and the very conversation that was meant to move them forward holds them back. So, in this video, I want to show you exactly how to handle this conversation properly. Because once you learn how to do this well, everything else in your career becomes easier. Let's start with something most people don't realize. Your manager is not sitting there planning your career. They're not. They're managing their own pressures, their own targets, their own deadlines. And here's the truth nobody tells you. If you don't raise this conversation, it probably isn't being had. Now, most people assume their manager is thinking about their progression. In reality, you're one of many priorities, and unless you put your career on the agenda, nobody else will. Now, that's not a criticism of your manager, it's just how it works. So this conversation isn't optional, it's essential. And how you handle it determines everything. So, let's look at where it goes wrong, because there are 4 very common mistakes. Number 1, they wait too long. They wait until they're frustrated, until they're already thinking about leaving. And by then, the tone is wrong. The conversation comes from a place of pressure and not progress. 2, they make it about them. They focus on, I deserve this. I've been here so many years. I've worked really hard. And while all of that may be true, it's not what moves the manager to act. 3, they ask the wrong question. They say, can I be promoted? And immediately they've handed all the power to the other person. The answer is almost always, let me think about it, which usually means nothing happens. 4, they don't prepare. They walk in with feelings, not facts. And feelings don't drive discussions in business, evidence does. So what you end up with is capable people having vague conversations, getting vague answers, and staying exactly where they are. So here's the shift you need to make. Stop thinking of this as asking for a promotion. Start thinking of it as opening a business conversation about your future. Now that's a completely different posture. Because when you ask for something, you're in the weaker position. When you open a conversation, you're leading it. And here's what most people don't realize. Managers respect this. They genuinely do, because it shows you're thinking like someone at the next level, before you've been given the title. So before you say a single word to your boss, you need to do the work. First step, get clear on what you want. Not more responsibility, not the next step. Be specific. What role, what level, what scope? If you can't articulate it, you can't ask for it. Step 2, build your case. Write down what you've delivered, what's improved because of you, what problems you've solved, what value you've added beyond your role. Now this isn't ego, it's evidence. Step 3, anticipate the likely responses. Think about how your manager is likely to react. Will they be supportive? Will they be vague? Will they push back? Because here's the thing, if you've thought about it in advance, you're not reacting in the moment. Step 4, choose your timing. Don't bring this up at the end of a stressful week, or in the middle of a crisis, or during performance reviews where everything is rushed. Choose a calm moment. Request a proper meeting. This conversation deserves the space. Now, this is the part that really matters, because words decide outcomes. So opening the conversation. Don't say, "Can we talk about my promotion?" Say, "I'd like to set aside some time to talk about my development and where I'm heading next. Could we book 30 minutes this week?" Notice the difference? You're not asking for anything yet. You're framing the conversation. Starting the meeting. Don't open with what you want. Open with where you are. Say, "I want to take stock of what I've contributed over the past 12 months and talk about where I see myself going next." Now that sets the tone immediately. You're leading, you're structured, you're professional. Making the ask itself. Don't say, "I think I deserve a promotion." Say, "Based on what I've been delivering, I believe I'm ready to take on the next role. I'd like to understand what would need to happen for that to become possible." Now that phrase does 3 things. It states your position clearly, it shows you've thought about it, and it invites them into the conversation as a partner. When they say, "not right now," most people accept this and walk away. Well, don't. Say, "I understand. Can you help me understand what specifically would need to change and over what time frame for this to become a real possibility?" Now you've turned a vague no into a roadmap. When they're vague or non-committal, say, "I want to make sure we're aligned. Can we agree on 2 or 3 specific things I should focus on over the next 3 to 6 months and revisit this conversation then?" Now, vague answers get vague results, so specifics will drive action. So where they say, "keep doing what you're doing," say, "That's helpful to hear, but I want to make sure I'm not just maintaining. What would going beyond look like from your perspective?" Now that single question changes everything, because now they have to think. And once they think, they engage. Closing the conversation. Don't end with hope, end with structure. Say, "Thanks for the conversation. I'll put together a short summary of what we've discussed and the next steps, and I'd suggest we revisit in 3 months. You've now created a record, a timeline, accountability. That's how careers actually move. Now this is the part most people miss. The conversation isn't the win. What you do after it is the win. So send a follow-up within 24 hours. Short, professional, clear. "Thanks for the time today. Here's what I took from our discussion. Here's what I'll focus on. Let's revisit on this date." Now track your progress against the things you agreed. Don't leave it to memory and don't leave it to chance. Revisit on time. If you said 3 months, come back at 3 months, not 4, not 6, because the moment you let it slide, the conversation loses its weight. And if nothing changes, you've now got something most people never have: clarity. You know where you stand, and you can make a real decision about your next move. Now here's something important. When you handle this conversation well, you're not just talking about promotion. You're showing your manager. You think strategically. You communicate clearly. You manage your own development. You hold yourself accountable. Now that's leadership behavior. And that, more than anything else you can do, is what gets you promoted. Because people don't get promoted for asking. They get promoted for showing they're already operating at the next level. So, if you take one thing from this, the conversation with your boss about your career is not something to fear. It's something to lead. Prepare properly, framed correctly, followed up consistently, this single conversation can change everything. You stop hoping, you stop waiting, and you start directing. Now, if you want a complete, structured way to develop these conversations and the strategy behind them, that's exactly what I built into my Ascend program. Because your career shouldn't depend on one good meeting. It should be built on the right conversations, handled the right way. If you liked this video, hit the thumbs up button and leave a comment with your biggest takeaway. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you want to see more videos like these. I'll see you soon.